Joko Collective's special presentation of Hyde Park Community Organization for Empowerment, discussion of development in the community, in its actual impacts. Joko Collective is a grassroots community learning cooperative, and we get together regularly to dig deep into issues that pertain to Black people's empowerment. And before we start any program, we always acknowledge that we do any work that we do, whether it's our work or whether we're welcoming guests as we are today, on the unceded lands of the Tongva people. This is Tongva. Um, and we recognize and acknowledge that we are um, a, a captive population in settler colonial territory, and I have absolute and unhesitant alliance with Indigenous people who continue to claim their sovereignty. And all that being said, we are very excited to support this discussion today. And without further ado, I'm handing it over to Sister Asada Umoja.
Okay, thank you, Tasha. Appreciating the JOCO and for all the work it does in terms of trying to expand our understanding and our consciousness of the issues that impact our people in our community. So my name is Asanta, and I'm with the Hyde Park Organizational Partnership for Empowerment, which is a resident-driven organization which came into existence shortly after the 1992 revolts in response to the neglect of in our community in regards to the developments and the types of services that we have. And we're very honored today to have our advisor here, our land use advisor here today, Dwayne Wyatt, if you raise your hand. And we also have our board members here, several of our board members here who live and work in the Hyde Park area. So we have Kim Moore, who is a businesswoman and board member. If you could, Kim is the one down at the bottom with the hat on. Okay, and we have also Wesley Smith, who is a business person and very involved in the community in terms of the type of developments and stuff that come into the community. We have Stephanie Lewis at the bottom, who is a resident and has been a long-time resident in the Hyde Park area. We have Antonietta Kashmiri, who is a resident down in the bottom left, resident and very involved, as a board member with the Hyde Park Organizational Partnership for Empowerment. We have Miss Linda Ricks, who has been working in this. We call Miss Linda Ricks one of the grand ladies of Hyde Park, has been involved in numerous developments, as well as different committees and whatever it is that's involved in the health and well-being of the Hyde Park community, was key in bringing the Hyde Park Library to our community in its improved state. So anyhow, we want to go ahead and get started. So our issue is there are so many developments. We would like for, if everybody can, to please turn on your cameras. That would be fantastic if you could do that. Okay. We're being impacted by so many developments at this point that I have like a couple of key questions that I want to, issues that I want to pose to the people here as we're raising, our concerns about the future of our community. Because right now, we don't have much of the commercial space along the Crenshaw corridor is being totally erased. And if whatever space is there is minimal. And then we have like projects that don't necessarily meet, like the Destination Crenshaw project, which is impacting our community, in ways by taking up commercial space, not really addressing the issue of what it takes in order for a community to be economically viable, but promising to do so. We have the MTA rail that came straight down Crenshaw Boulevard, and it's a ghost train. Nobody from this community is actually riding on it. At the most, you see 5 people at a time riding on that train. So we know it's not for us, but yet we lost many of our businesses as a result of it. And we have like multiple developments that are housing developments that are on the on our commercial corridor right now that do not they're building like housing again that most of the people in the community cannot afford. And so we're here to talk about what we need to do, you know, as a community in order to assure our survival and our existence. As you know, this is an election year, and we're really concerned about people looking at what the issues are and making sure that we develop ways to have responsible leadership, you know, that addresses the needs of our community. So I want to start off by having everybody kind of like answer one basic question or respond to one basic question in terms of um, you know, our issues, and kind of give people more of an understanding about what's going on. Because according to the news and according to reports, we're real happy. We're happy about the MTA rail coming down the middle of our community, and we're happy about the Destination Crenshaw project. You know, that's primarily an art project that's not really bringing any kind of real viable economic viability to our community. So anyway, I was trying to think of what the other thing, but I wanted to go ahead and ask these questions. So there's three basic things in terms. I'm going to start with community stability and preservation, because you know we're in the midst of a gentrification. So I'm going to start with actually I'm going to start with you, Dwayne, in terms of talking about what do you think is needed, what do you feel is necessary in order for our community at this time to be able to have a future that supports, you know, the residents in that is a thriving community around the issue of community stability and preservation. You need to unmute. It's not at the bottom, your unmute button. You see it at the bottom.
Yeah, I think, I assume I'm unmuted?
Yes, you're unmuted now.
Thank you. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. We have the opportunity to engage with the group. You know, Hyde Park, like any other community, there's a feedback. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, do you hear the feedback? Okay, I don't know. What can we do about that? I'm not sure.
Bad.
What was that?
It's not that bad.
Not that
yes,
bad?
I hear the feedback.
Okay, let me get a. How about now? Can you still hear me? Still hear the feedback? Okay, well, I guess if it's not that bad, I guess we can live with it. You know, any community has to have some basic amenities for it to be viable, for it to be competitive. Communities are competitive. People choose to habitate, to move into communities based on what that community will offer. People who have opportunities to choose. People look at the quality of the schools. They look at the quality of the stores, shopping opportunities, recreation opportunities, and what have you. These are the kind of foundations, the building blocks of a community. And so our communities, when we look at our communities, African American communities, and look at Hyde Park, we see that quite often decision makers don't really have a complete understanding of that. So what they do is essentially opt for anything that looks like it's going to provide something in the community without regards to understanding what it is that makes that community work, what makes it livable. And so we find ourselves and unfortunately capital in America does what's tried and true. So instead of a viable market, you know, we have a proliferation of fast food stores. We have a proliferation of barbershops, proliferation of hair care salons, because these are things that are tried and true, and it doesn't involve very much risk. So we find our communities with an over-proliferation of these kind of uses. So what we've done in terms of Hyde Park is taking a step back and trying to figure out what it is that makes for a viable community in terms of shopping, recreation, and so forth, and amenities that would imply, and what it is that we're missing. And then we're beginning to gauge this community relative to that. In addition, try to understand how can we make the community more attractive to our own people being willing to invest in its own community. And that's a whole different discussion at some point we can have.
And so again, thank you, Dwayne. So we're talking about, again, preservation and stability. What do you feel is important in terms of the future of our community, in terms of its stability and preservation? I'm gonna go to Linda Ricks. If you could take a few minutes and kind of talk a little bit about that. We want to continue the old way, or we want to go a new way?
I'm with the new way. I agree with everything that Dwayne said, that we do need commercial space here. They give us weak excuses as to why I like to out in our community.
Just a minute, Dwayne, I think you may need to, somebody needs to, okay, mute. I'm hearing the background from somebody.
Was it me?
I think so, Linda. You had your radio on?
Okay. Yeah, okay. I forgot what I was saying.
You were saying that you agree with everything that Dwayne said.
I agree with Dwayne that we do need businesses other than residents along Crenshaw. They've destroyed all of our businesses, and they're bringing us residents, which don't bring tax dollars back to the community to do the stuff we need done.
Okay. All right. So Wesley, you're right next to Linda. As a business person in the community, what do you see as being what's critical in order for stability and preservation of the community?
Well, I think as residents of the community, and if we want it to be a certain way, we should become more involved. I recall there was a time when I heard that they were trying to get companies to come here. Google, this was when Parks was a council person. He was talking about trying to recruit companies to provide jobs for people in the community. I don't know, the real estate, property, businesses are controlled primarily from people that are not residents of Hyde Park. And I don't know, there was an opportunity when Ralph's left, we could have done something, but we didn't. And I recall in the past, Dwayne talking about cooperatives, which was actually a good idea. But nothing, it hasn't occurred. But then again, it still may, because that might be part of the new idea. Otherwise, I'm kind of curious if anyone knows what's going on Slauson Avenue, where Hungry Harold's is, and they tore down the building behind Hungry Harold's, and the donut shop is closed. Are they trying to develop that block between, I think it's Victoria and Bryanhurst? That was just a question.
Yeah, I hear you. And as we talk about stability and preservation, what you're talking about is very significant. We're seeing our businesses just disappear before our eyes. You could pass by a business that was there 6 months ago, and you pass by and it's level to the ground. And it's level to the ground because they usually getting ready to build some housing that has very little to no housing that the majority of the people in the community can afford. So in terms of stability and preservation, the question that you asked, well, what is going on? That's what we said. What do we need to do in order to make sure we're able to preserve, our businesses, and also to make sure that we have the type of affordable housing that we need, that our community can afford. So thank you for that. And we're going to move on and get some other opinions in terms of what we're dealing with right now, because it's like total erasure. You mentioned the Rouse. The Rouse market is gone, and the community actually was not involved in the process of choosing the market that came. It was given to us. Our pharmacy is gone. And many other types of our businesses are gone. Mr. Wisdoms that used to be there, even though he wasn't on the corridor, he was directly impacted by the construction on the corridor. He's gone. So again, I'm going to pose the question in terms of community stability and preservation, in terms of what do we see that we need to do, as opposed to the story that's been given to us about how happy we are about, art and a train coming through the middle of our community. So I'll go to you, Kim, and tell me, what you see as being primary in terms of the preservation and stability of our community. Kim Moore.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of things going on into our community that we're not aware of. I mean, we own the building at 5349 Crenshaw. One day, all of a sudden, we see fencing there, and they're tearing up the sidewalk. And we're there every day, and no one knocked on the door or distributed any literature to say, hey, this is what we're doing in front of your building. And not only does it compromise our customers getting into our establishment, but there's no parking, there's no direction, there's no anything. We don't know how long they're going to be there. And it has a major effect on our business. And why didn't someone, walk down the street, knock on the door and say, hey, this is what's going to happen in front of the business? It's just a total lack of communication.
A lack of respect.
And, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Kim. Stephanie Lewis, the same question, as we are looking at, all of the developments that are coming into our community. What do you see as being critical in terms of the stability and preservation of our community?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. What do I see as being critical? Just the necessary basic services for our residents, for our stakeholders in the community. I noticed that RHYDE is gone, so where does the average senior, or anyone for that matter, fill their prescriptions? The Axminster that used to be up the street on Angeles Vista is gone as well. So just basic services. We've been without a grocery store for more than 4 years now, if not longer, and you guys can correct me. That's what I see as what is needed for the preservation of our community. If there's no basic services, then people look for other places to live.
Okay, I hear you. So, basically what we're looking at is a continuous history of imposition. So, it's like really just kind of like being invaded upon or intruded upon, without any type of no real inclusionary options for the community. And so, we're in a constant state of having to address, what it is that we want as a community. One of the things that we know that did happen is that the councilman, our current councilman, Marquis Spears Dawson, was able to get a protections in the South LA community plan. We're right next door to them, and for some reason or another, we didn't get those protections, in order to help make sure that our community has stability and is able to make sure that our community survives. One of the things is that we've been labeled as a destination with Destination Crenshaw. We all know that anytime your community is labeled as a destination, that it is not for the community, it's for the tourist. And so the community is not really getting, what we need. And we have to look at the kind of leadership that would make this, that would create this kind of a situation, and really not include the community in the planning for its own community. And so as we go forward, we really kind of want to make it clear that what we are looking for in terms of preservation and stability are some of the things that Dwayne lined out. Dwayne is a former planner, and again, our land use advisor, is what does it take in order to make a community survive? You need services. You need to be able to have, as Wesley mentioned, you need jobs. You need institutions that provide jobs. And like right now, what we have is art.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have a metro train running through the middle of our community that is actually serving no purpose for it. Matter of fact, it's wasting taxpayers' dollars. There's a forever tax that we're all paying, and this train that's running through our community absolutely has. So again, we're really encouraging people, as you look at this scenario, to think about, who is responsible. We have to be responsible in terms of how we vote. If we don't vote, and if we don't elect leadership that responds to our needs and hears our needs, we're going to continue to get more of the same.
Yeah.
It'll be the same old way. And it's time to look a new way, is what we're saying. Right. And I think we're going to go the old way, or are we going to go the new way? And that means being responsible in terms of looking at what the situation is in our community, what we need in order to actually survive as a community, in order to thrive as a community. Talking about, again, community stability and preservation. And we are still currently working to get a community plan amendment so that the very things that we're talking about are supported in our community plan, so that we have the type of zoning that allows us to plan for our community in a way that supports the life of the community. So I'm going to move on at this point to my next question, and ask everybody, not next question, but next, in terms of economic empowerment.
Well, before we do that, Asada, can I just interject something right quick? Please. And I think it's an important discussion that not only Hyde Park, but I think African American communities around the country are facing this question of gentrification.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, our politicians, and most politicians, think in terms of a 4-year term. That's usually in the city of LA. A city council person, I believe, is elected every 4 years. So most of these politicians think in terms of a 4-year horizon. The Crenshaw community is incredibly situated within the county of Los Angeles. And we're facing what many Black African American communities are facing in terms of being overrun by developments, residential developments that hardly anyone who lives in the community could afford. So we're talking rents, apartment buildings been built, and I think there's about 6 or 7 along the Crenshaw corridor that I can from the freeway to probably 79. 6, 7 apartment building structures. And we're looking at an average rent for a 2-bedroom, $3,500, a 1-bedroom, $2,800. The nobody currently living in Hyde Park could probably afford that. And so what happens is that the city, through various mechanisms, are allowing developers to do that, to build these units, knowing that the current residents could ill afford to rent those. So it's a quiet displacement, essentially. And I think that it's happening in Atlanta. It happened in San Francisco 20 years ago. It's happening all over the country. And I just think that at some point, certainly, we're trying to address it through some zoning mechanisms that will give some protection, that will develop more affordable units in these complexes. But it's really a finger in the dike. And so we have a political leadership that's not really prepared or that's really willing to really to take this issue and really look at it in a serious kind of way. So it's not a natural occurrence that we are systematically displaced. So I just think that we need to put that. That's a serious discussion. I think that we all need to begin to engage in.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for that. And as we move on, so talking about economic empowerment and why it's so important to make sure that we create businesses, that we create opportunities for people to be able to not only have more money from working, but from creating businesses, ownership. Wesley mentioned cooperatives. That what do we and as we look at what the current leadership is bringing to us, you know, we would like to see more support for opportunities to cooperatively own. You mentioned the grocery store. That would have been an opportunity to really bring together some people to cooperatively own that market. We look at what happened at the Crenshaw Mall, where downtown Crenshaw actually had the money and was putting a bid on that property, that it would have been community owned. The money would have circled back into the community. It would have built some economic empowerment in our community. And the leadership of our elected leadership did not support us. And they allowed someone to come into that to buy that mall, and it was really kind of awful the way they did it, because the people who were trying to buy the mall outside of this, they didn't really have the money, but because racism is so prevalent, they waited on them to get the money. They waited till they were actually able to gather up their investors to get the money when downtown Crenshaw had the money in hand. And our political leadership did not speak up and make sure that we had every opportunity, to be able to have that mall. So we have that, and then we have the store down at Slauson and Crenshaw, the old Rouse, where now what we actually have is a Mexican market, Vallarta, that we're having to negotiate with about what we want to see, because they're coming to a primarily Black community. What we want to see, that it's important that you have people employed in that market, that are representative of the community, that people, and that they, get fair wages and all of these kinds of things. So I'm gonna stop and let other people talk about, why economic empowerment is so important. And when you have projects like, again, a Destination Crenshaw that's bringing art and talking about, building economic viability that's not actually taking up commercial spaces. And when you have a metro train that's running down the middle of Crenshaw Boulevard that's using our tax dollars and we're not benefiting from it, what do you see as being some of the tools, and how do you see us addressing, the issue of economic empowerment in our community, especially when our commercial quarter is being totally erased, are with such minimal support for our businesses that we don't have the services that we need. I just want to see this one example, then I'm going to move to everybody else. We actually have two businesses right now that need the support of our leadership, and they are just not getting it. And we have written letters, we brought it to their attention. It's a shoe shop and it's an art framing shop, businesses that people use all the time. Otherwise, we'd be having to travel across town just to get to those businesses. They're in our community. They're right off the corridor, So why can't we get them on the corridor? Because right now there's something that's called the Jobs Economic Development Incentive Program, but it is only for businesses on the corridor. And not only that, but it's the HYDE program is being so poorly outreach to the businesses that many of them don't even know it exists. So we really need to, look at making sure that we're able to preserve, our businesses and support them, because they're supporting us by providing the services. So with that, I'm going to stop. I'm going to go back in the same circle that I went before. Dwayne, starting with you on the issue of economic empowerment.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty intuitive. And I think the point is well taken. I talked earlier about the importance of having a variety of amenities for a community to be attractive and competitive. But for sure, one of the things that we've been trying to pursue through working with Downtown Crenshaw Rising and a couple of other groups is looking at the viability of cooperatives. We have a working group now that's looking at putting together a proposal for a co-op, which would be a worker-owned situation. And we hope to, once we create a positive model, we hope to be able to replicate that in other sectors. We're talking to some people, groups around the country that we've hooked up with. That's everyone's certainly has been taking their what can I say, inspiration from the Montreal experience, which is hopefully our people know about. And so, yeah.
The Montreal experience is what, Dwayne?
It's Montreal in a vast region in Spain after World War II, a priest put together a series of businesses that's right now it's an international industrial giant in Spain, in the vast region, that hires thousands of their people in a series of cooperative businesses, from manufacturing refrigerators to, I presume, cars and etc. And people from around the world go and look at them, and it's one of the strongest industrial areas in Spain. So people around the world go to Basque, and they're very giving, very sharing in terms of their experience. We have yet to I think really capitalize and really made that model work for us. But I think it's something that we really need to do. In terms of economic development, certainly one of the things we talk about just having viable businesses, it relates to the quality of city services. And this is one of our angst with respect to using all these commercial spaces to put 100% residential on commercial spaces, because what that does, it precludes us from generating sales tax to underwrite city services. And I don't know if people understand how that's structured, but residential give rise to property taxes, but those property taxes don't go to kind of city services in the city. It's the sales taxes from businesses that goes towards underwriting, building safety and sanitation and what have you. And I think that again, though, this is our political leadership not understanding in a cogent kind of way what the impact of their decisions are having on our community.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne. Linda, I'm gonna you next in terms of economic empowerment. And in terms of as we move forward, the old way or the new way. What do you see as being some critical issues and viable options for us in terms of economic empowerment? Unmute. You need to unmute.
Okay. First of all, I'm following Dwayne again, and he said everything that I'm thinking. Plus, we need to put more pressure on our elected official, namely our council person, to stop selling us out.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Thank you. In a word. Okay, move it, Wesley, in terms of the issue of economic empowerment.
Oh, well, I think one of the things that maybe we should, because you talked about how we're losing commercial space. If there's a commercial development on a commercial street like Crenshaw Boulevard, Slauson, Gage, and they want to put residential there, they should have the amount of commercial that was originally there. If it was 3,100 or 4,000 square feet of commercial, and you're going up, right, and all of a sudden now you got 900 square feet of commercial space. That's a loss in the community. Dwayne was talking about sales taxes, and how businesses directly pay for our city services. We can't lose our commercial space. That's one of my thoughts.
Right on. Okay. Going to go to Kim on the issue of economic empowerment and what we as a community need to do, because we know what the old way has been. Basically, anyway, I'm going to let you go ahead and respond to that, and ways and options that you see as we move forward in terms of having actually what we need in order to have a future for our community.
Yes, I think that in the development that they're currently doing, they need to take into consideration that they're getting rid of the commercial space, the viability of the community, the desirability of the community, because no one wants to live in a community where they have to go outside of that community for commercial services. And by doing that, it also affects the property values, because nobody wants to purchase property in an area where they can't get those services. So I think all those things need to be taken into consideration, and we as a community need to step up and say, hey, we're not going to stand for this.
Exactly. Okay, thank you. Stephanie Lewis.
My sentiments exactly to everything that has already been said. If afforded an opportunity to own something in a community, people feel more empowered. And with that comes economic empowerment. As Kim stated, no one wants to purchase property in an area where they don't have the basic services. And when that happens, we're seeing a lot of developments going up with no opportunity for ownership, much less ownership of a business in a viable community, because we do have the dollars here in Hyde Park. So we just need to be able to have some empowerment when it comes to decision making, be at the table. If you're not invited to the table, you can't have a say so, but we just need to get invited, and it hasn't happened.
Thank you, Stephanie. Antonietta? So the issue is building economic empowerment and the importance of economic empowerment.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Before I begin,
are you able to turn your camera on?
No, I can't, because I'm actually still preparing
Okay,
for the
okay.
thing. I want to say I want to build on what Dwayne said before on the issue of how affordability. One of the things that is happening is also that we're getting a lot of units that are single. They're not building units for families. And so that has to stop also. We need to have, not only in the affordability issue, but we also need to get units that families that are living here currently can continue to live in, once these units come on the market. Now, as it pertains to commercial, one of the things that I have noticed is that the commercial space that we have been given, that I have seen grow here, is very, very small in comparison to the ones that I see when I drive along Adams and Washington Boulevards. And I think that is something that needs to be looked at, because if the space is not big enough to accommodate a viable business, even if they say it is a space for a business, you won't have anyone in there. They keep saying to us that it can accommodate a coffee shop. How many coffee shops do we need along Crenshaw? So I think that is something that needs to be seriously considered. And then, as I think it was Wesley who said, we need to also think about making the space, replacing the space that's taken with equivalent space. Because if we don't do that, then we're always losing. Thank you.
Thank
Asada, you're muted.
Okay, Danelle, we're going to go to you next. Danelle is the Planning and Land Use Chair for Park Mesa Heights, which is the area that Hyde Park is in under the city of Los Angeles. So the question is specifically around the issue of economic empowerment. What do you see as being viable options right now at this time compared to what we've been experiencing? Your take on that? Are you there, Danelle?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to turn on your camera?
Yes, I'm adjusting that now. 2 minutes, 2 seconds. And I did turn the echo cancellation option on, and I see that I'm still echoing. So I'm not sure why that is, but I do apologize. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I thank you all for holding this space. This is my first time here in this think tank, and so far I'm going to tell you this is refreshing. I'll say that. And so to answer your question, in my opinion, one of the most effective options moving forward would be to advocate for policy. And as mentioned earlier in the conversation regarding amendments to our community implementation overlay plan, CPIO, that must be done. In my opinion, that must be done. I would like to see reversals of things that have happened, but to at least stop, at the very least, to stop what is seemingly being accelerated by our local leadership. And I say that because for those of you who may not know, our councilman is also the chair of our Los Angeles Planning Land Use Committee as well.
Who is that? And who is that, our councilman?
Mr. Marquise Harris Dawson. And so and so with that, I believe, and I know, I know that every application for those that are familiar again with committee meetings as it pertains to the city of Los Angeles, that the Plum Committee, they see and hear and discuss and vote and rule on every single application that comes through. And he chairs that committee. And so as it pertains to our community, as it pertains to CD8 as a whole and Park Mesa Heights, he knows what's coming in. And so what has been going on and what is continuing to go on is a grave lack of transparency. And in which I have experienced as well in my position, both as chair of our Plum Committee regarding the neighborhood council and also as a Hyde Park resident myself. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of adjectives. However, it's very frustrating, especially when this individual, Harris Dawson, is not new here. You all know that. You all know that much more than me. I'm considered a transplant in Los Angeles. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, and so I've been here 8 years so far. So it would be it would be very coy, to assume that he has no understanding of ramifications and negative results from major decisions, especially those with which the community was not aware of at all, and or very last minute, to where we get into a desperate situation. For example, the lack of a full-scale grocery store within Park Mesa Heights, and Hyde Park specifically. However, we know that our neighboring residents and community neighbors, they also frequented the Ralph's grocery store as well. And so when we lost that, or when we lost that and the store closed, I believe it was already at about 2.5 or 2 years and some change, when the community began getting louder and voicing our opinions and holding events, with which we gained some support from other individuals as well and outside entities. And it was only until that happened, while still not receiving any type of communication, no transparency, there were no representatives that attended those said meetings. And it was only until I want to say about 4 months later that there was a magical notification about Vallarta supermarkets seeking to give a presentation to the Park Mesa Heights Community Council. And even so, that presentation did not happen until 2 months after the first communication. And 2 months, 2 months after the initial communication, and by the time the presentation was done, back in November of 2023, by the time the presentation was going on, the lease had already been approved by the owner of the Crenshaw Plaza Shop Center. So, you know, and I'll be honest with you all, I took great offense to that. I still do, in terms of their methodology, in comparison to what they speak of. It seems very hypocritical. It seems very, I would question their ingenuity in their position, because other statewide policies and local ordinances in accordance with the flaws in our CPIO, our community plan, have caused more harm than good. And to circle back to the commercial spaces, the decrease of commercial spaces, that's also been coupled with the loss of parking spaces along the Crenshaw corridor, and I know that really started off with the implementation of the train, obviously, but remember, and for those that may not know, the state of California, you know, is moving in the direction of creating policies and mechanisms to decrease vehicle usage, regardless of the community, and that is in accordance with the plan to decrease carbon emissions, and to accelerate Go Green and sustainability, transportation and sustainability, and increase public transportation usage for eco and environmental
Okay.
issues.
Okay, we want to try to wrap it up, and we're going to, we got one more question, so just, okay. Get your last thought out.
Oh, okay. Well, to reiterate, I believe that policy intervention is necessary here. Specific policy intervention. Not for underserved communities, not for minorities, not for people of color, for the Black community. We need policy intervention, and we need it yesterday, because if we don't, we will become an afterthought, and our neighborhood, our community here, will become a tourist land spot, and also a designation for those who need permanent supportive housing. Because currently we have three fully operational permanent supportive housing developments, with which serve formerly homeless, formerly chronically homeless, meaning they have been homeless for years at a time, those that suffer from mental illness, and those that are in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And that's specifically not for folks that are homeless and they're employable and they're seeking to just get a leg up, but permanent supportive housing developments typically support those type of those populations. And And so we're seeing an increase in those as well. And so we currently have 3 that are fully operational, one that is currently being built on West Boulevard, down the street from Silver Star, same owner. And then there was a recent application for another one on Crenshaw Boulevard, which is seeking to replace, I forgot the name of the school. It used to be a small school, but it has since shut down. I can't remember the name of it. I do apologize, but there was someone who came in who was seeking to acquire that and turn it into a permanent supportive housing development. And so,
okay, all right, Janelle, thank you, appreciate that. We have one other person that just joined us that we want to make sure. Dwayne had to leave; he had someplace else he had to go. But we have one of our also other advisors here, and want to pose the same question to him, and that's Manna Kaisi that just joined us. So, what we're talking about is the impact of developments in our community. Do we want to keep going the old way, or we want to do it the new way? And what do we need to do? Particularly, we're talking about the issue of economic empowerment, to make sure that our community, has a future. Manna, do you want to speak on that issue for a few minutes? And are you unable to show your? There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't want to show myself until I saw what everybody else was seeing. So I wanted to make sure I knew what you all were seeing before I came on camera. Where is I'm also just adjusting to this platform. I've never used it before. Yeah, I mean, I think my perspective on this topic is something that I've repeated and shared, consistently over time. I think the new way is the way that we want to do it, but I might have some opinions about what the new way looks like. For me, it looks like stakeholders empowering themselves to set the table for what development looks like in our community. And unfortunately, we're a little bit under the gun as it relates to that, although we haven't always been under the gun. I think Asada and others on the thread are familiar with some points in time where in the Park Mesa Heights community, we had more of a coherent vision and plan of what we'd like to see development-wise, and a process for how we could kind of leverage our power to put into motion what we'd like to see in ways that were not so totally dependent upon what others think we need, whether it's private development interests or whether it is governmental stakeholders. So how we get there, I think, is to embrace the process of really organizing and planning with our community stakeholders and figuring out what does the path forward look like for us under these current conditions. We've in the past had some very proactive planning and projects on the table in terms of how we brought investment into the community. And quite honestly, over the course of time that I've been involved with the Park Mesa Heights community, the script is kind of flipped. Like the landscape has flipped totally, where we were once a community that was underinvested and was engaged in proactive planning to see how we could bring investment into the community and grow and develop in ways that are conducive to the current stakeholders, including the majority Black stakeholders in Park Mesa Heights. And the script is now flipped, where there's aggressive, I think aggressive is putting it mildly to say that there's aggressive investment coming into the community that is not in the interest of the existing stakeholders. So we're all stakeholders are somewhat on the defensive in terms of this aggressive investments that's coming. And but unfortunately, we weren't able to quickly pivot sufficiently from the posture that we were in as a community that was trying to attract investment into the community, where it was, a drought situation, to now there's been a flood, right, of investment coming in that we're up against it, trying to control and predict and direct it in ways that benefit the community, which I don't think we're adequately prepared for that role. So what we're up against, in my opinion, is the flood is coming in, and it's like we're in a boat where we're being flooded, and we're trying to we're trying to plug the holes, right? We don't have a process or a plan of how we leverage, redirect, or otherwise control the flood that's coming in. We're trying to plug these holes, but the flood is coming so aggressively and so fast that we're finding it difficult to stop it from coming in. And that's where I think proposals like the suggested policy interventions, et cetera, these are all designed to kind of mitigate against the flood or stop it or plug some of these, the plug holes where the rush of investment is coming in. We've got to get back, in my opinion, to a proactive position where we have brought our stakeholders together and we have figured out, under the current set of economic conditions, how do we leverage it towards the benefit of the African American community. And I will also say that I think the current efforts, however long they last, around equity and around reparations, that those are the two tools that we have at our disposal right now to try to change the nature of the investment that's coming into communities where Black people are. Equity is centered around Black folks. Whether we keep it centered there or not is something we have to endeavor to do, because if we don't keep it centered around Black folks, then it will become people of color equity and underserved communities equity, et cetera, et cetera. That unfortunately, that is a way of controlling the conversation that we have to leverage for ourselves. And the same goes for reparations. I can talk more about that, but I see a colleague giving me the hook. So
Thank you.
And apologies for coming late, folks. I had a standing meeting that I have every other Sunday that I had to attend first.
Okay, thank you. So, just our time is coming to a close, but just want to get back to the topic again, which is just refreshing our memory about, or the discussion is on the impact of developments and the future of our communities. So we've kind of talked about, we've kind of already talked about housing and affordability of housing. So I'm not gonna just see that we talk too much about that, but in terms of stability and in terms of preservation, that we know that we have to build. And a part of that is, as you see, is that we have to be responsible for also the type of leadership we put in place. And we want to, again, encourage people. Let's look at remembering that your vote empowers the future of your communities. Okay, so that's critical. And talking about building a stakeholder base that people are aware and understand their power. Don't underestimate your power, our power, in terms of being able to make a choice that supports, the building of our community and the future of our community. So I think we have
Sarah, if I may, can I say something to go with what Marla said?
Okay, go ahead. I just want to say we only have about 5 more minutes left.
No
problem. And so I just want us to kind of round it up a little bit. Go ahead.
To back up on what Marla said, for those of you who have not completed the survey that has to do with the reparations from the city of LA, please do so, because the numbers are horrible. We have not.
It's over. It's over, Antoinette, unfortunately. Yeah, it's over.
That's too bad.
It ended on February 29th. And the numbers are not horrible. It's horrible only relative what our goal was, but there's no other reparations body anywhere in the country that's completed as many surveys as Black Angelenos have. We just had a really high expectation of what we wanted, and we fell far short of that. But relative to other reparations bodies, we have more public survey input than anybody has had to date.
Okay, fantastic. So again, as we refresh in terms of empowering our communities, is to first of all make our case, make sure that we support the entities that are putting our case forward, which at this time, is reparations around the issue of equity, specifically for Black people, that we have to be our own voice. We have to make sure that our voice is recognized. We have to put in responsible leadership that responds to the needs of the community. In addition to the fact that we have to look at our future and what it takes to make that future happen, that we have to look at other options in terms of coming together, using alternative economic models, cooperatives that we talked about, and that we will want to put policy in place that supports that. So I want to thank everybody that came. I want to thank the Hope Board. I want to thank the Park Mesa Heights Plum Chair. And I want to thank our advisors, who are really part of Hope, But and I really want to thank the JOCO for allowing us this opportunity, this platform, to take a critical look at, why it's important for us to continue to raise our voices and to put policies into place, and to continue to build and outreach to additional stakeholders. And remembering again that your vote empowers the future of our communities. And at this point, I'm going to turn it back to JOCO. And again, thank JOCO for allowing us this platform.
And thank you so much, Asada. Thank you so much, Hope and Park Mesa Heights organization. Absolutely excellent discussion. And we've done this live stream and, kind of almost impromptu. Let's do it. Let's get it done. So really an excellent on point discussion, and we will recirculate this election coming up notwithstanding. It's an ongoing conversation, and a critical conversation the community needs to engage and kind of hop on that narrative train whenever they get to it. So we look forward also to recirculating this discussion, okay, on our platform. So yes, thank you all just one more time, and we look forward to next time.
Okay, thank you.
All righty.
And good night.
If you have been watching this on YouTube, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the JOCO Collective channel. It has been our pleasure to host y'all, and everybody out there in the live stream world, go vote and vote for the people. Peace.
I just want to thank you all for hosting this space.